So, welcome once again. This is the Cleared Bit Masters in Management event series. We're going to talk with 5 amazing Masters in Management programs today. I'm your moderator. My name is Graham. I'm the co-founder of ClearAdmit, and ClearAdmit's just a community online for applicants who want to learn more about graduate management education. And today we're going to talk about a very specific degree, which is the Masters in Management. I wanted to just quickly introduce each of our guests. So let's go through. First off, we have Wynne Strugatch, and she is the Associate Director for Student Recruitment and Admissions at Chicago Booth. Welcome, Wynne.
Hi, everybody. So glad to join you today and have the chance to share more information about our Master in Management program.
And you have to remind me, did I say your last name right? Because I always have this fear when I say it.
Strugatch. So very
Strugatch.
close.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. It's great to have you back. We're also going to hear today from Anna Gibbons. She's the program director in the Masters in Management program over at Emory Goizueta. How are you doing, Anna?
I'm doing great. It's so great to be here today. I'm excited to talk to you about our program.
Great. Yeah, it's terrific to have you. We're also going to hear from Alex Barnett. She's the recruitment and admissions director at London Business School. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks so much, Graham. Hi, everyone. Good to see such global representation in the room. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Jerry Langfeldt is joining us from Northwestern Kellogg. He's the Senior Associate Director of Admissions. And like Wynne, he's in some very wintry weather. I guess I've heard it's been very cold in Chicago with some snow after the holiday. But welcome, Jerry. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about Kellogg and looking forward to hopefully helping people learn more about this program.
All right. And last but not least, we're also today going to talk with Lindsay Haberman. She is the Associate Director of Recruitment and Admissions at UC Irvine's Paul Merage School of Business. And Lindsay, please tell us it's like sunny and warm where you are in Southern California, or at least warmer than maybe in Europe here or in Chicago.
Yeah, it definitely is. I was going to say that. I'm like, it's sunny and warm over here in California. So if you're looking for that, I'm definitely excited to talk more about our program and yeah, tell you more about Merage.
All right, terrific. All right, so let's dive in. The first question I had, and this one we're going to ask Wynne to tackle, is, what is a Master's in Management program and who is it for? I mean, it's a very basic, right, straight down the middle, but I just think it's useful because, a lot of folks are in university still and trying to figure out their path. So tell us, what is this program and who's it for?
Yeah, so the Master in Management program is really designed for early career advancers who are typically not going to be eligible yet for an MBA program, who are seeking fundamentals in business to kind of pair on to their undergraduate studies and take that next step in their education. So it is meant for individuals who have STEM or liberal arts backgrounds and are seeking a program that they're typically going to complete within 1 year to get more of that focus fundamentals across different aspects of management, marketing, finance, to really then push themselves forward in whatever fields they're interested in, whether that might be arts, healthcare, administration, business. So we want to help make sure that these students are finding a bridge, especially if they weren't able to pursue business programs in their undergraduate degree, but realize the importance of having that type of core and network that you're going to get through these programs.
Terrific. Yeah. And one of the things we talked about in yesterday's event, which also, focused on Masters in Management, is this notion that in every area of the world, there's a need for management, whether it's, nonprofit organizations, for-profit, technology, banking, consult. I mean, there's so many different areas where these skills are important. And that's the beauty, I think, of a Masters in Management and really most management education. But let's turn to Anna, because I have a question for you, Anna. And this one is more, we're we're just going to dive in a little deeper here. So like, tell us a little bit about the curriculum. What are the subjects that we would associate as being part of the core? And is there any elective coursework? And I know this varies quite a bit, so I may pull, each of you a little bit on this, but let's start with you, Anna. Take us through how this is all structured.
Absolutely. So with a master's in management program, you can usually think of it in two phases. So the first phase is kind of building that business fluency. So that's going to be introducing you to topics like accounting, process and systems management, finance, marketing, organization and management, business communication. So really building some foundational skills that will kind of put context around all the different functional areas of business. And then in our program, as you head into your spring semester, you are able to customize electives in those functional areas of business based on your interests and kind of where you hope to take your business education. So those electives are going to be in all of those functional areas that you get that foundation in. So you may take additional finance classes, you may take some analytics classes, entrepreneurship, marketing courses. You'll really be able to tailor that to your interests. And that does vary from program to program in terms of how lockstep or how customizable the elective selections are. And then the other part of our program is an immersive client-facing project in your spring semester where you are applying all of the business frameworks you're learning in a real-time client experience. In terms of kind of majors or specializations, with the Goizueta program, the opportunity to do that is through your elective choices. So you can kind of create a pathway or a cluster of interest based on, something like healthcare, or if you're interested in the sports and entertainment industry and you're looking to kind of get some additional skills through those elective courses that will cater to that industry.
Okay. So I know this differs a little bit. So can I get a show of hands if there are elective courseworks in your master's in management program? Okay. So everyone has some electives. How about majors? Does everyone have or specialization, let's call it? So some do, some don't. Yeah. So that's why I'm glad I asked this, because I know this varies quite a bit. But, well said, Anna. I mean, I know, in terms of the core, that's, I'm guessing, fairly similar across all of you in terms of, you've got to study accounting and finance and marketing and all those core subjects that are going to be helpful as you head out into the workforce. I often think of it as, in some levels, the core in a master's in management is somewhat similar to the core of maybe an MBA program. I guess another show of hands, to what extent are the MiM students taking any classes with MBA students at your institution? Yeah, so everyone. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Because these are the same subjects. And so I think that's what I really think is quite appealing about a MiM, is that you can get that toolkit of a kind of first year of the core of an MBA, or in this case, the Master's in Management curriculum, and then head back into the workforce or into the workforce. We'll get into some of the details with each of your programs in a moment, because I do want to hear more about how they're structured and also whether or not people can have work experience or not. I think all of you allow for some of that, but there probably are some nuances there too. But let's turn to Alex at LBS now, because we have another question here. And this one's a good one. And probably very top of mind. It's like, what do MIM grads do when they graduate from the program? Like, what kind of jobs are they taking?
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I think, as my colleagues have said, it's very much about starting and launching your career and being that early career space. So typically that kind of analyst level, if you're thinking about structured hiring, we typically see a trend of a lot of our students in particular going towards consulting. The last 5 years, that's kind of been the top placement, followed by finance, followed by sort of technology and what we would call diversified. I'm sure that's fairly typical, that there's a really big breadth of where our students are going with the Masters in Management. And I think, to your point, having those core courses ensures that there's that, minimum skill set of all the cohorts, and then using things like the electives, whether they're mixed across campus or not, allows you to really either broaden that skill set or focus in on a specific area. I think what's brilliant about a master's in management is that it really doesn't preclude you from any career destination. You can launch as a consultant, but you may pivot in a few years' time. And this degree is really going to help you not just launch and find that first job, but I think sort of accelerate the next one as well. And we've had many successful entrepreneurs either immediately or, further down the line from the program as well. So I think it really helps set the foundation for any career that you want to go into. But if you think about, the typical large employers of the world, many of the students are able to secure roles with them, but thinking about the many more that are out there as well. There's, many consultancies that offer individual roles. It's not just about the structured hiring, but with this program, you're going to get support to be able to leverage both and leverage your skill set and background as well.
And I'm really glad you're talking about that breadth, because we were talking yesterday about how for so many degrees that you pursue, you're kind of pigeonholed, right? If you go to law school, you're going to be a lawyer in most instances. And with a master's in management, you can be kind of anything still. It's not, you're not sort of forced into any one kind of pathway. But yeah, so let's move on. We have another question. And this one is for Jerry at Kellogg Northwestern. And this is fun. I'm an admissions junkie, so I love this one. What are you looking for when you review applications for master's in management? Like, what are the characteristics that you're trying to find in candidates?
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I really like this question because I think that admissions can very much be a black box, and I'm happy to sort of demystify that a little bit for folks. As has been mentioned earlier, the MiM program, and certainly at Kellogg, and we actually have a specific pathway program for this, which I'm happy to talk about in a little bit. The MiM really is the first year or equivalent to the first year of an MBA, of a Kellogg MBA. It's the same faculty teaching the same coursework. It's very rigorous, right? And so because it's so rigorous, we need to understand and be able to see evidence of strong academics ability and certainly quantitative skills. The MBA is a very quant-heavy degree, and so we just need to see evidence of that. That can be via your undergraduate studies and the grades you got in those courses, certainly test scores as well. But the other side of it is our program is very collaboration heavy. It's very cohorted. So we need to see evidence of strong team skills and leadership potential. And we can see this in a lot of different places, right? We can see this in any sorts of extracurricular activities you were involved in, any sorts of leadership opportunities you took advantage of in those experiences, and then certainly any internships that you engaged in as well. None of those are required that you have a certain number of internships or a certain number of extracurricular activities, but these help us see your aptitude in those areas. And then finally, we need to be able to understand from you what a MIM degree will do for you. We don't necessarily need to hear, your specific 5-year plan that, after you graduate, you'll be working in this sector and this function and things like that. But we want to see why this degree, why is this something that you're looking to pursue, and how will this help you get where you're going?
All right. Yeah. Terrific. Thanks for shedding light on that. And I think, we'll hear a little bit more because I know in some instances people may come in with some like full-time work experience. And so we'll hear a little bit more as we get into this. But Lindsay, I want to turn to you because we have one more question in our kind of roundtable here where, are there majors? Like, I know that, it seems like most of you have some elective coursework and some have majors or specializations, but can you just talk a little bit about what that entails? Or is really it's sort of the focus is general management and people can take a couple of courses in something, but really the gist of it is to just give that general management education. But take us through.
Yeah, good question. I think some of us said, you asked us to raise our hand earlier. I think it varies amongst program. I think there are specializations, pathways. I know we have two here at Merage. But mostly I think they're aligned with career goals, right? I think we see a lot of pathways in analytics, marketing, consulting, strategy, project management. So, I mean, those really encompass kind of taking those couple electives that we offer here, and those are in those specific areas. Does every student have to do one? No, but I think, it can enhance your program and enhance your career afterwards if you're looking to go into one of those areas. So I do think it varies, and people call them very different things I've kind of seen as I've researched. But yeah, I mean, definitely there are some of those pathways built into the program, and, they can really help for your kind of career success.
Yeah, and I think you're making a really good point about, I'm now thinking of all the names that people give to this stuff, focus areas, tracks, specializations, majors. I mean, it's just, yeah, there's any number of way to talk about this, but it does also seem like most of the curriculum is a core of kind of business fundamentals that helps people to, kind of launch their early career, I think, as Alex was saying, right? So, yeah, terrific. Appreciate you responding to that. Next up, I think what we're going to do is, I would like to give each of you sort of a chance to talk a little bit about your program. And also specifically, I know that, in some instances, some masters of managements don't want people with like a business degree as an undergrad, and some are fine with that. And some have like certain, requirements, like, oh, you have to have done a certain amount of quantitative coursework or et cetera. So I thought it'd be useful to have this first bit where it's like, who's eligible to apply in the first place? And then the second is just highlight something about your program that's exciting, that you really want to share. And finally, it'd just be good to understand how the kind of career piece fits in to the degree. These are 1-year programs, so it's kind of a fast pace, and just would love to know like how that process kind of lines up with the curriculum. So we'll go back to the top of the alphabet. Wynne, I want to turn to you. Take us through your thoughts on these 3 questions.
Absolutely. So for the Booth MiM program, students who are graduating within 2 years of entering the program are going to be eligible. So for fall 2026, we are looking for students who are graduating between September of 2024 to August of 2026. The only prior degree type that is not eligible to apply for this program is going to be students who are pursuing a BBA, a Bachelor in Business Administration, as we found that the program content is a bit too similar and they'd be best served through a different type of program. One of the highlights for our Booth program and student experience as we are getting ready next month to kick off our London study abroad experience through the Global Innovation and Impact track. So we have, I believe, 23 students who are going to be traveling and taking courses at Booth's London campus as a smaller subsection of their cohort, learning more about the global and international business industries, getting to do a project with a company that is out there. For students at Booth, career coaching and support is going to happen as soon as you're admitted. So that's definitely a perk of applying and being admitted early. Once students are admitted, they are connected through both our admitted student Slack workspace as well as through individualized outreach to set up their first career coaching appointments, start meeting with that team in the winter, spring, summer prior to entering our programs, in addition to once they are here on campus, attending different lectures, guest series, networking sessions that we're going to be hosting online leading up to the start of the program to help students to really develop and refine their goals, help getting you connected to current students, alumni, recruiters, to make sure that you're leveraging this program beyond the 10 months of enrollment.
Yeah, that's great. I think this notion that once you're admitted, you can tap into some of the kind of counseling and coaching is really important. I suspect we're going to hear similar things from other panelists too, because it does feel like that's a key way to kind of get a running start, kind of thing. But Anna, let's turn to you at Emory, Goizueta. Take us through these 3 questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So similarly with Goizueta's Master in Management program, the only degree not eligible are students who have completed an undergraduate business program like a BBA, but business minors are totally admissible. If you've had a little bit of business exposure, that is fine. So we are excited to have you. We typically also function within the kind of 0 to 2 years of work experience. I would say for us, it's not quite as much of a hard and fast. We do have a few exceptions in each cohort just based on the types of experiences the student had before deciding to pursue the MiM. And our program, is really excited to have students who focused in the liberal arts and doesn't have a high expectation of significant quantitative coursework. We want some exposure to statistics and economics, but sometimes that can even be done as you are leading into the program in the fall. So if you're a little bit scared of the quantitative, we are still a great place for you, and we'll get you up to speed. Something I'd like to highlight about the program is we really have a strong emphasis on kind of multi-layered mentorship and opportunities for coaching throughout the program. So in the first semester, all of our MIM students work with our MBA Leadership Development Fellows, and this fellow kind of coaches them on team dynamics and the group projects that they're doing, really offers continuous feedback on kind of their personal and professional development. We also have a semester-long series where we engage with our alumni in a Lunch and Learn series to kind of give you those connections in the Atlanta area. And then in the spring semester, each MIM student receives an executive coach for the semester that they're able to meet with 5 to 6 times to continue to strategize on career or just their personal and professional development. So a really high investment in making sure that you are having the experience you want to in the program and really maximizing your growth because it is a fast 10 months. On the career side of things, we also engage with you as soon as you are committed to coming to us. And so our Director of Career Management for the MIM program starts personal brand coaching as soon as you are ready. So we'll start working with you in that exploratory phase, getting all of your personal branding materials ready for day one in the program. So lots of times that ends up happening kind of April to August before the program starts. And we also have an opportunity for a guaranteed summer service internship that students can do before the program starts. So we have a partnership with our Center for Ethics, and students can participate in a internship in the Atlanta area focused on a nonprofit, business for good kind of functions, and improving things in the Atlanta area. So you're getting some applicable skills to build on and add to your resume as you're entering the program and getting ready for that recruitment process.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So again, with this idea of hitting the ground running, that summer experience seems interesting. Alex, let's turn to you over at London Business School. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these 3 questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Graham. Yeah, eligibility quite similar to what we've heard from others. We're in that 0 to 2 space, so yeah, very much the same there. We are undergrad agnostic. We don't place a preference on any particular background. We do use standardized testing, so GMAT or GRE, to get a sense of where you are and your sort of verbal and quantitative abilities. And we do have some standards there to make sure that it's the only prerequisite piece of information that'll be the same for everyone, to kind of set that minimum threshold and bar within the classroom there. So yeah, I think that's one of the strengths of the program. You're kind of bringing together people from different backgrounds so you can leverage those that already maybe have some familiarity, but it's definitely not a repeat if you have already a business or management background. It's very global theory. There's lots of practical elements to the program as well. So I think that kind of covers off eligibility. I think in terms of a highlight, whenever I hear students and alums talking, yes, they love the academics and the outputs that they get from the program, but I think whilst they're on program, that ability to immerse themselves in some of the fun elements, some of the experiential elements, the parts that sort of take them outside the traditional classroom. We have London Lab, for example. It's a 10-week hands-on consulting project. You're working with a real company, you're working with mixed teams across the institution to achieve, real outputs. And I think students love being able to apply that learning. And also when they go on their global trips, their global programs, to be able to apply what they know into a different context and see how business is done in other areas. I think that's definitely a highlight, plus all the travel that they usually tag on to the end. And that's definitely where the fun element comes in as well. In terms of career coaching, we also do offer some access to this prior to joining the program. I think it's really important, as my colleagues have alluded to, that you are ready to hit the ground running. Much of the structured hiring happens really early in the program. We purposely lighten our term one core expectations in terms of sort of the core program that's on, because a key part of skill development is also thinking about, those career skills, those, growth skills that you're going to get as well. So it's not just all about, the CV, the cover letters, but also thinking about who you are as a person, your direction of travel and how we can help best place you to achieve your goals as well.
Terrific. Yeah, thanks for that. And I want to ask everyone a question about testing, because you're the first person to mention that. But I think that many of you have, GRE or GMAT requirements for these programs. Is anyone test optional? Like, is there any waivers or things like that? So Emory, Kellogg. So, okay. So there's some flexibility, it sounds like, probably dependent on what you've studied as an undergrad and your ability to demonstrate the skills, I guess. Let's move on though, and we can get into that a bit more later. But Jerry, I want to turn to you and hear a little bit about Kellogg in these three dimensions, if possible.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. So, similar to LBS, we don't have any sort of knockout undergraduate majors. If you have a BBA, you're welcome to apply. We'll let you make the decision if you think that your BBA covered the things that you felt it needed to, versus coming to Kellogg for the MiM program here. And similarly to the question we just asked about testing, we do take the GRE or the GMAT. We don't have a preference between either. If you have a, GPA of 3.4 or higher on a 4.0 scale, you're eligible to waive your test score if you don't want to submit one or don't have one. But certainly we have plenty of people that exceed that threshold that also submit a test score, and that's great too. In that type of situation, a test score can only help you, it won't hurt you at all. In terms of highlights of our program, there are a few things that I want to very briefly touch on because I know I don't want to take up all of the time for the session. But the first is the heavily cohorted nature of the program. The folks that are in this program with you are going to become very, very tight with you. You're doing a lot of things together. Every course we have is team oriented and team based. Because we understand that that's how business works. That's what you're going to be doing in real life, in the real world. So we want to, put that into the program from the beginning. When you're in winter quarter, we're on the quarter system, so you actually take 3 terms of courses here. You have the choice between our Global Initiatives and Management course or the Strategic Management Practicum course. So these are both great options. Global Initiatives and Management, as the name would imply, includes a global experiential learning opportunity. The students this year are going to Prague in the Czech Republic, and then to Berlin. So opportunity to be on ground in those markets to learn a little bit more about how those markets work and really grow your global acuity if that's something that's interesting to you. If you'd rather stay stateside, we do have this strategic management practicum where you're taking on a simulation of a consulting case that takes over the entire course of that term. So it's a great opportunity to engage in that. As far as career coaching, this is something that we do start prior to the program starting. We have a summer boot camp where we really ramp up getting you prepared because, as Alex mentioned, a lot of the structured hiring certainly in consulting and banking, typically happens over the fall. So we want to make sure you can hit the ground running. So we do resume workshops, we do personal branding stuff, we do interview prep and things like that. And then that all culminates in a mock career fair that we have at the start of the term here on campus to really get you comfortable with the concept of pitching yourself and getting yourself out there and making yourself marketable to these companies that are looking to hire Kellogg talent.
Terrific. Yeah, thanks for shedding light on that. And very, very speedily. I mean, I know you said you wanted to share a few different things, but that was speedy, and we're totally on time, everyone. So we're good. Let's turn now to Lindsay at UC Irvine. Same assignment for you, Lindsay. Would love to hear your thoughts on these 3 questions.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely kind of mirror kind of what others have said about eligibility. I think really 0 to 2 years of work experience is kind of what we're looking for. Typical we've seen coming from non-business degrees. I think that's where we are seeing a majority of our candidates. We are also open to business undergrad. Again, it's kind of your choice to know whether, those classes could be, similar to what you have taken, but again, not really necessarily not eligible. But again, I think the non-business degrees are what we are seeing the majority of candidates come in with. And then question 2. So I think I might be the only one. We are new to Masters in Management. We launched our first cohort this past fall. So we've learned a lot. We are now in year 2, and we've learned a lot from our students that just started. So highlight of the program, what I think they're going to say, because I've heard a lot about it, because they're going to be starting it here in a moment, is our capstone project. And that capstone project, they're going to be working, on a real life project with a company in the local area. I will say some of our other specialized master's programs do capstone projects as well. Some of the companies they've worked with, Johnson & Johnson, Experian, Deloitte, Amazon. So it will be with a big Fortune 500 company. And they're really going to get that hands-on experience that I think is going to be so vital for these students as they kind of progress in their career. So yeah, that I am assuming is going to be the highlight. I can't wait to hear a little bit more about it once they kind of start it in this next quarter. So yeah, we will definitely see, what the outcome is of that. And then career coaching. Yes, we have an amazing career center that works with all of our graduate students. There will be dedicated a career advisor for our Masters in Management students. And as you said, I mean, they do need to hit the ground running. We hosted several sessions over the summer to really get them thinking about, what are the important things that they need to get going as the program is only 9 months. So, really have to kind of hit on all of those things right away. Career expos definitely are going to be big. We do a pretty large career expo per quarter in our courtyard here, as the picture shows behind me. This is kind of our 2 buildings. And we bring in a lot of companies in the area, again, looking to talk to all of our graduate students. So we had, I think, about 30 companies here in the fall, and it was a great, very high energy, fair where students really got to kind of interact with these companies. And again, that's going to be really important, I think, to their overall success as they kind of start to go through the program and work with the career advisor. But there's definitely a lot of support. We are also a smaller class size. All of our programs are. So you get really high level advising and from our career team. They really get to know our students really, really well. And they're able to really personalize their support. And so I think that will be another really important factor for these students as they navigate that, career landscape and kind of go through the job search process. So I'm excited to see what happens here after cohort 1. We had a great response for cohort 1. So it'll be exciting to see at the end what the outcomes are for these students. But yeah, it's been a good learning experience for us here at Merage.
Excellent. Yeah, this is it's really just interesting to hear. One of the things you're talking about, size. Like I think of some of the, like, say, MBA programs are really large, right? And I feel like every master's in management program I talk to, it's obviously on a slightly different scale and a little bit more intimate. And that's a kind of feather in the cap too, I think, for these types of programs, that you get a really nice, in most instances, fairly small cohort. Let's move on. We have some questions. I think that these are questions that we got from the audience in advance. And so, here we go. So this first one is going to be for Wynne at Chicago booth. And it's sort of like, obviously you all are asking about career plans, usually in the essays or personal statements. And this person's saying, I kind of feel like I need the MiM to orient myself to the professional world. This person's a physics major. And so they're wondering, like, how do I answer a question about career goals when I'm not, when they're not so sure about what they want to do?
That's a really great question. And I think one of the important things to know is that the majority of our students are coming from non-business backgrounds. So they've studied areas of math, sciences, arts, education, across the liberal arts. So there is no specific background, major degree type that we are looking at. We are looking at your academic rigor. We are looking at your quantitative background, and we are looking at your career goals that don't need to be fully fleshed out right now. For Booth, we're going to ask about both short-term and long-term goals within our essays, and we don't define what those are because we want to get a sense of where you think you're going after this program, and maybe even a little bit farther down the line, so we can help assess where you've been thinking about in terms of your aspirations, fields that you're looking to enter, and we can then best give you advice, career coaching, recommendations on elective classes, connections that are going to help you. So as you're researching the schools you're interested in, look at our course offerings, look at our different concentrations and electives to be able to express to us how our program, our curriculum fits into your goal development towards the careers that you are looking at or trying to determine still what those might be.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you're making a really good point too, which is you're reminding me of the fact that this is an exercise, right? It's not as though when the candidates graduate from the program, the dean is holding that essay in hand, and when they come across stage, if they've taken a job that's different from what they said in the essay they wanted, the dean's like, oh, sorry, no diploma for you. You didn't do what you said. So there's obviously, this is an exercise. And so, I think this physics major, like you said, look at the courses that excite you in the program, start to think about how those courses might map, right, to potential careers, and just be authentic about it. I think that's the main thing, right?
Yeah, and I think these programs are really for kind of two main populations, which are career advancers and career pivoters. So whether you're looking to get further business education and kind of tailor that down, or whether you don't have that background and you're looking to either add that on or make a switch in the types of careers you're going into, tell us about that. What got you interested and engaged? What type of education and specific resources are you going to use at our school to help you learn more about those career opportunities and then land within one where you're going to get the development you're seeking?
Okay. Yeah. Terrific. All right, Anna, over at Emory, this next one is for you. It's a little bit of a long one, but this person just talks about how they're a biology major and they've been doing all this like lab and research work in the summers. And I think what I'm sensing from this question is they're worried that, oh, these haven't been like business internships. They're very lab and research oriented. And so they're worried, like, how do they, use those experiences in a favorable way when they apply to a MIM, or are you going to kind of look at that and say, well, this isn't, businessy? So what would you say to this?
Yeah. So similar to some of the things that Wynne was sharing, we love the diversity of experiences that our students bring into the program. And I think what you can think about when you're thinking about your application materials is the transferability of what you've been doing. So if you've been working in a bio lab, you have been dealing with complex problems. You've likely been working on a team. You've been analyzing data. You've been thinking about how to communicate results. All of those are very transferable to the business world and to business skills you'll be continuing to build in the program. So if you can make some of those connections as to how you see what you've done as being an asset as you step into this business space, I think that's really attractive in your application. Additionally, I think one of the most rewarding things to read about in students' applications is how something they've done in a space maybe not traditionally seen as related to business has sparked a business interest. So maybe something about working in that environment in the lab made you think, okay, these people are not working well together. I think they need a better manager, or I am excited to be the one communicating results because our results are so impactful, but they're not compelling, and the story needs to be told better. So I want to learn how to do that through business school. So if you can talk about those things and connect to the experiences you've had, we're going to be really excited to see that type of student in the program.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, someone who's a bio major who's had this kind of lab experience is like a perfect candidate for a master's in management because,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think Wynne was saying earlier, people use the degree to pivot. So you've studied science and now you realize, oh, I'm kind of interested in management. And so it's a great tool to do that. And as you also point out, Anna, I think, yeah, there's probably many a lab or research center that, could use better management, or, that where you could see someone saying, oh, this would work better if maybe we, had a different approach. So by all means, yeah, this is a great candidate, it sounds like, based on what they've shared here. All right, let's move on. Our next question is for Alex at London Business School. Alex, this one is, it just asking about like how diverse is the student body, specifically from a nationality standpoint, and is the goal to have people from all over the world? Yeah. So what do you say to this one?
I mean, the second part, I think I can just say yes and leave it there. But to expand perhaps more on the first part, yeah, I think London naturally does attract people from all over the world. It's a very global city. I'm a Londoner myself, but I'm one of the rare Londoners on campus at LBS. It's a really, really diverse in the program, but also more widely. And I think that's why people love it as a playground, an educational environment, because there's just so much to learn from. And I think, it's somewhere where you can fit right in because so many people are, immigrants or have multicultural experiences and backgrounds, or even if you don't, you're certainly not the majority at LBS. We're usually between 8 and 10% British and 90 to 92% international. So to give you kind of an idea of that. In the MiM specifically, I think this year we've got around 65 unique nationalities in program, and that is really exciting. Culturally, there's so much to learn from, but also to be challenged by. You might not have loads of experience being in really diverse environments or having your ways of thinking challenged. And this is a really fun but also robust way of doing it. You're going to get some great debates going on in the classroom. The professors are really international as well, and that adds to, your thoughts and your thought process. The theory isn't just, coming from a dusty old British textbook. It's coming from real world global experiences. And there's no dominant nationalities on campus. So it's a really great place where it's home for everyone. And I think it makes it so much more fun and culturally enriching. You've also got to think practically, this network's going to stay with you for life. Maybe you won't go on and do another college or an MBA later down the line. So, why not buy into, a really strong and diverse network to begin with? You may be thinking about relocating later. You may be from someone else. You may want to transition to the UK, and all that can be supported, not just through things like the Career Centre, but the people that you're able to interact with around you and the alumni base and foundation as well. So many spread out all over the world that you can draw on their experience and just have fun with it as well. There's something really for everyone in that diversity. I think Anna was saying, diversity of experience is just as important. And it absolutely is. It's not just about the nationality, but I think it's a great starting point in terms of how multicultural it is.
Yeah, and so two quick things. I mean, I think one of the benefits of this panel, with all five of you being from very well known institutions, is that the ability to draw people from outside of your kind of local market, and to have a really interesting student body. But then, Alex, you said something that reminded me. So, can I do? I'd love to get a show of hands. You mentioned people may someday come back and do an MBA, and traditionally, I think at all of your schools, an MBA is 2 years long. The MiM is one. Do each of you have? My understanding is that many of you have like if you come back several years later after you've worked and you want to get an MBA, you can come back and just do 1 year. But correct me if I'm wrong. Do you guys offer that? Raise your hand, I guess, if you offer something in that vein, where you could come back. Okay. So not everyone, but that is a potential pathway for some programs. And I think in all instances, I don't think MBA admissions officers look down on someone who has a MIM and then has gone off into the workforce. It's probably quite the opposite, because it's someone who's really committed and demonstrated a desire to accelerate their career. All right, let's see. We have another question, and this one I think is going to be for Jerry. Yeah, so Jerry. Well, this is really good. It's perfectly teed up. It was not intentional.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Like, how do I decide between a MIM, a deferred MBA, which, in case our audience doesn't know, is really an MBA, just you apply earlier and they hold a seat for you, but you still have to go out and work for several years before you can start. And also, I already kind of hinted at this earlier, but if you're willing to just talk a little bit more about any kind of testing, like waivers and what, like when someone should make that call kind of thing.
Yeah. So, as you said, Graham, perfectly teed up. This is actually really exciting for me to talk about because I think one of the things that Kellogg does so well is provides you the ability to get a business education, regardless of where you happen to be in your career. So we have this fantastic master management program. We, of course, have our world-class MBA program. We do have a deferred MBA, which we call Kellogg Future Leaders. And you might be sitting asking yourself, so how do I decide which one? And clearly, this person was trying to decide which one. And really, it comes down to two things you have to answer for yourself. And I kind of think of it like a flow chart, right? So the first question is, where am I in my career? Traditional MBA is typically, we're admitting someone that's got I don't want to say significant, but maybe it is significant, bit of work experience. The average years of work experience for our full-time MBA program is 5 years. So if you're right around that 5 year mark, then maybe an MBA is a really good fit for you, the traditional MBA. Obviously, with that being an average, there are people that are below that, there are people above that, but that average is a little bit instructive. So if you're below that and really within the sort of 0 to 2 year work experience window, then it comes down to a couple of other things. If you have 0 years of work experience, you're currently in your undergraduate program, or you went directly into a master's program from undergrad with no gap in between, then you're eligible to apply for our deferred MBA, Kellogg Future Leaders, and you're also eligible for our Master in Management program. So then it comes down to, what do you want to be doing next year, right? So as Graham mentioned, the deferred MBA means you're going to be admitted to an MBA program, but you're not going to attend that immediately. You're going to spend time getting work experience, that upwards of 5 years of work experience that we typically see for our full-time MBA students. So if you want to be working next year, then maybe the deferred MBA is the right fit for you. If you want to take more time and you want to maybe get a little bit more education before you step into the professional work world, then the Master of Management is a really good fit. And then, oh, by the way, we actually have something that Graham alluded to, where we invite our Master of Management graduates to come back and complete their MBA with us. Kellogg has something called a 1 year MBA, which is actually fairly popular in Europe, maybe a little bit less popular here in the States, but all of our MIM students are eligible to apply for what we call M to M, or MIM to MBA. which is a flavor of our Kellogg Future Leaders Deferred MBA, where our top performers are automatically admitted, but all MIM students are eligible to apply to be in our deferred 1 year MBA. So then you go out, you get 3 to 5 years of work experience, you come back and complete your MBA here at Kellogg. So you really can kind of have it any way you want, depending on your eligibility. And so, again, think about it like a flow chart, and use that to try to decide what you want this path to be. And then as far as test waivers go, for Kellogg, I mentioned before that you are eligible to apply with no test score if your GPA is 3.4 or greater on a 4-point scale. If your GPA isn't on a 4-point scale, you can get a course-by-course evaluation from any NACIS approved provider like why am I blanking on one right now? Wes is probably the most common one we see, but there are many, many others. And if that evaluation puts your GPA above that 3.4 threshold, you just submit that in place of a test score, and we're happy to accept that as well. But again, if you have a test score, we'd love to see it. And if you are above that 3.4, that test score will only help you. It won't hurt you.
Yeah, and just to put a finer point on this, I guess what this person maybe was getting at is whether there's like a difference. Like, so if someone applies to an MBA, the test
Yeah.
is required, or maybe if it's a master's of management, it's not. I don't know.
Yep.
It sounds like there's a waiver option with the MIM. Is there one with your MBA as well?
Yeah, there's not for our MBA. Our
Yeah.
traditional MBA requires a test score. You can, I don't know how much I want to broadcast this, but you can kind of backdoor your way into an MBA without a test score if you are admitted to our MIM program and then go into M to M.
Right. Okay. Sure.
So you would not have a test score requirement at that point.
Okay. Does anyone have the same kind of scenario where test score required in your MBA, but some waiver options in your MIM? Yeah, I see Anna's nodding as well. Okay. So does that mean, Alex and Lindsay, does that mean your program, so LBS does not, so in the case of LBS, there's no waiver for either, or just,
We have a waiver for both our MBA and our MIM programs.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And Alex, how about at London Business School?
Yeah, so our MIM, we don't have a waiver process for that. With the MBA, we have two different routes. So there's the traditional 2-year MBA where you would require a test score. We have a 1-year MBA that is open to previous MIM graduates. So you will have already had to have a test score at that entry point, so you wouldn't need it further down the line. So sort of similar to Jerry, I think, in that way.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Got it. All right. We have one more question from the audience that was submitted in advance. And that question is a little bit longer, but it's sort of wondering about, I mean, I know you guys have touched on this a bit. But it's like, how rigorous is a MIM from a quantitative standpoint? And I know that in some instances, you guys say we want to see evidence of quantitative ability. In other cases, it's like, no, we'll train you up. But this person's a junior studying poli-sci, and they're kind of wondering about, maybe taking some courses in their senior year that would get them ready, and to what extent that's needed. So Lindsay, tell us, I mean, how do you see this from UC Irvine's standpoint at Merage? Like, is there, I mean, I'm assuming it's fairly quantitative, the core curriculum, but what would you recommend to this person?
Yeah, great question. Because I think a lot of us have said our degrees are geared toward business majors. So
Right.
yes, there's going to be, quantitative classes, in Q1. I mean, for us, you take accounting and statistics, two very quantitative courses. So I think for somebody coming in with a non-business degree, I think, yeah, I mean, any kind of, quantitative classes, you like in this instance, if you have some elective choices left, maybe taking a basic, accounting or finance class is definitely going to be helpful for you. I think, again, it's kind of maybe doing things over the summer as well as students are preparing to start the program. I know there's a lot of different things out there. I mean, Harvard Math is one that we kind of suggest a lot. There's a lot of great certifications in like analytics that you could take to just really get yourself thinking, kind of that way as you enter the program. Again, we're a very team-based program, so our students work in study teams right in the beginning at orientation and kind of continue on in those study teams. We make those study teams very diverse, so you could have somebody that might come in with more of a quantitative background than yourself. So those are great ways to kind of lean on your classmates and really learn, what you can learn from them to kind of help you in those areas. Maybe you have more of a, marketing background and you can kind of contribute that to the group. So definitely, I think it's important to have kind of a baseline. I think those are the hardest courses for students that do come in with a, non-business degree to kind of navigate through. And I think any way that you can kind of set yourself up for success, it's going to be helpful. So I would definitely try to plan to take some of those courses, whether in kind of your last year in your undergrad or even over the summer. I think they could be very beneficial.
Okay. Yeah, terrific. And I think one of the things that's great in the current era that we live in is there's no shortage of online and, offerings that you can do on your own time. So even if you're not taking something in your senior year, you can go out, as you say, and do an extension school course at any number of universities online, and get that kind of, if you need to take a stats class or just something to jog the mind of all the math you had to learn back in high school so that you're ready to hit the ground running when you get to business school. I want to do one more thing before I let everyone go. And that is, I think we have a slide here with your deadlines. And so, everyone, we have all the deadlines on here, even the ones that have passed this fall, because there may be some juniors in the audience or people who are thinking about next year. So this is kind of how it works. And I just wanted people to understand, there are several deadlines left. My guess, and I could be totally off base, but my guess is that for MiM programs, college students especially are probably applying more in the kind of January to March timeframe, and that maybe there are fewer of them that are as, kind of gung-ho to get stuff in October anyway. But I don't know, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. But in any event, these are the deadlines. Is there an advantage to applying, if we have people with us today who are thinking, oh, I could work over the holidays and get something together for that January or February 1st deadline in the case of Irvine, is that preferred as opposed to them waiting until March? Or does anyone want to, Jerry, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I'd love to chime in here. I'm glad you asked this, Graham, because for applicants requiring a visa to study in the US, we do require that you apply by the round 2 deadline, simply because the visa process, as current events have sort of borne out, unfortunately, over the past year or so, just makes it more and more difficult to secure a visa on that timeline for rounds 3 and 4. So if you are looking to study in the US and you need a visa to do so and want to apply to Kellogg, we do need it by January 14th.
Okay. Any other advice on this one? Anna, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, several of us mentioned the opportunity to engage with our career teams and, do some early preparation. So the sooner we know you are excited to come, the sooner we're able to engage in that. And obviously, like those April deadlines make that lead in a little more challenging. So thinking about the January, February might be advantageous just from a preparation, planning for your summer, getting engaged with early career and all of that standpoint.
Great advice. Yeah.
Are coming out of their senior year. So it's a great way to take a lot of stress out of that time and really be able to enjoy your spring term if you've already applied and gotten that decision that you can then weigh your offers for jobs, school, etc.
All right. So everyone tuned in today, that means spend some of this holiday season working on your applications. Apply early so that you can benefit. I think it really is true. Like imagine having that decision in the early, part of the new year. That's pretty amazing to go through your spring semester knowing where you're going to land in the fall. I know we're at the top of the hour, so we're going to have to wrap up. But this has been such a fabulous conversation. I do see there have been a number of questions. And what I would say to folks who posted questions and didn't get responses, just reach out to our panelists or reach out to the schools. Every one of these programs has like a an info at admissions type, email address that you can write a question to, or even many of them do coffee chats online. There are a number of ways to reach out to these schools. So please don't let this conversation be the last one. Continue to explore and learn more about these programs. And I do want to sincerely thank Wynne and Anna and Alex, Jerry and Lindsay for all of your time today. It's been so great hearing from each of you. And I always feel like I learn a ton in these sessions. So hopefully our attendees feel the same way. But thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Graham, and thanks everyone.
Yeah. All right. Everybody else, stay tuned. There'll be more events. I believe we're going to do some more Masters in Management events in February. So stay tuned for details on that. You can find everything you need at clearadmit.com. But thanks so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your morning, midday or night, depending on where you've joined us from today. So thanks again, everybody.